Are you looking to create an outstanding onboarding experience for an A player that perhaps you've just hired? Because getting the best talent is super important for any business, and yet many businesses really struggle to do this well. However, once you have managed to select and recruit and go through all that process to get an A player who actually wants to start at your business, how are you going to make sure that they get the best possible start to joining their career in your business? How do you make sure that you're delivering on their expectations and as a result mean that you'll keep them? But also, how do you make sure that they're given the best possible start so they can start adding value to your business as quickly as possible? And all the while, one of the challenges is that often you're hiring someone because either you or the team that you're hiring them into is busy. So how do you make sure all of that happens and they get this outstanding experience even when that's the case? Well, uh, what I'd like to do is talk about some things that you need to achieve as part of an onboarding process, and and some resources that I can share that will help you to create that within your own business. So in terms of what does an outstanding onboarding experience need to do, because I think a lot of people think about employee onboarding and they think about contracts and they think about getting them a pass to enter the building and sorting out some HR and health and safety stuff, and that's about it. And maybe it includes sorting them out with a desk, a phone, and a computer, and maybe introducing them to their manager again, but that's about it. That's clearly not an outstanding onboarding experience. It's not going to wow the people joining your organization. It's not going to set them off on the best footing. It's not going to help them to understand all the things that they need to know and be able to do within your organization as quickly as possible. And in fact, I remember an onboarding experience I had at a business that I joined many years ago, well over a decade ago, where I remember some of the onboarding was excellent, and then there was kind of this drop off. There wasn't a good handover, and as a result, I was kind of left to a desk to play around on e-learning to my heart's content. And it didn't feel in line with the way in which the organization was being sold and the way they like to run and so on. So it's important to create that congruence and to really help those new joiners, those A players, get started and adding value as soon as possible. In fact, my experience of true A players is they start to feel very uncomfortable if they don't feel like they're delivering value early enough. You might say, well, no, it's fine. Actually, I recruited you. Trust me, I think you're great. You're fantastic. It'll take some time. Don't worry. But actually, I've seen that true A players, they tend to worry a lot about their performance. And in fact, it's probably one of the reasons they're A players is they're constantly reviewing how they could be better. And if they're not adding basic levels of value, they will feel very uncomfortable in that role. So you don't want that. So essentially what you need to do is you need to make them feel welcome. They need to feel happy that they've been welcomed into the company in a friendly way. They need to feel supported, so they need to know who to reach out to and who's around for them to lean on and who they can ask questions to and so on. Whether that's a manager, whether it's HR, whether it's a buddy, whether it's all of those, how to do that, what's the best way, and so on. You need to teach them the most important things they need to know about the business as a whole. So I would suggest that would include a bit about its history, the vision that exists for it, the values, the accountabilities or the org charts that exist so they can understand where they sit. It should also include who the ideal customer is, what products and services you provide, and how you're delivering value to those customers at a high level. What the marketing and sales process is, how are you acquiring your customers, and at a high level, how are you delivering value to those customers and the process for that. And also you should cover any of the key processes that the business uses to do its day-to-day, whether it's managing employee absence and sickness, or how you request time off, or submit expenses, all those sorts of things. But also how you manage issues, what's the meeting rhythm look like in the business, and how's that used? How do you set your objectives or projects, and when are they reviewed? How do they get updates on key metrics, and so on? So all those things, your ways of working in the business, should be shared really early on with them as part of their onboarding. Then once you've got that in place, you can then move on to getting them up to speed on their role. So you've covered all company onboarding, but then you can go role specific. So you can cover what are their roles and what's their role and responsibilities. Where does that fit within the wider business? What's most important in their role? What are the key targets that relate to their role? Who else are they working with, and what's their meeting rhythm for those people? You've also got what are the key processes that they need to have access to, understand, be able to perform? What are the key systems that they need access to? And by the way, systems actually you're going to need in the company onboarding as well, because there'll be some company-wide systems and some role-specific systems. So you need what systems and how to use those, and so on. And so essentially the series of things that person needs to know, understand, be able to do, access, so that they can deliver in their role. In my experience, if you get this right, typically the company onboarding takes a day, and that's it. You're done. You've done all those kind of things. And then the role onboarding could take weeks, even months. Typically, you want to get them to a position where they're adding value within 7 working days. And I've seen that, and we've used that with software developers, with salespeople, customer support people, finance people, HR people, marketing people. You should be able to get them to a point where they're adding real value within 7 days, ideally within 1 or 2 days after their or company onboarding, so that they really start to feel like they're contributing. Otherwise, they're going to feel uncomfortable. Once you've done that, you can then support their continued growth. So you need to be handing over to your processes for how do managers have performance reviews with them, have one-to-ones with them, how often should they be planning their personal development? Are you using 360 feedback? Are you using personal development plans? Whatever you're using to support the ongoing development of your people. And if at this point you're thinking, I don't think I have anything to support the ongoing development of my people, then I highly recommend checking out. In fact, I'll share a link to another video that I did on how you can use one-to-ones as a minimum. There are other ways, but as a minimum, use one-to-ones between managers and direct reports to address that. Because if you're hiring A players and you're not doing something to support their continued growth on an ongoing basis, you are not going to keep them in the organization. There are the two most common reasons for someone leaving an organization. 1, they don't get on well with their boss. 2, they're not growing. So firstly, make sure that all the managers are lovely people that provide good availability and time and show an interest and so on. And secondly, make sure that you're supporting their growth. Otherwise, you will not keep your A players in the business. So that's what you need to do to provide really excellent, outstanding onboarding experience for your A players. Ultimately, this is about delivering what you promised through the recruitment process. You know, if you've been telling them that you're a great team that are really supportive of each other, and that you have really well documented processes and structure, and you're continually supporting the growth of your team, then you need to be delivering on that. On the flip side, if you've told them it's a complete mess and that everything's a free-for-all and you're hoping that they can come and clear it up, then maybe it's fine. But otherwise, I'd recommend have a really good structured onboarding process. In terms of what that might look like, in fact, one thing, so I will show you how it looks, but one of the challenges I often hear is, Alexis, that sounds great and fantastic, and I'd love to work in a company that does that, but it sounds like so much time. Like there's no way that we can provide that kind of time to deliver that level of onboarding. And actually, I argue it's the wrong way around. My experience is that if you don't have that kind of structure and you haven't prepared that in advance, then you spend hours and hours and hours each day for weeks with a new joiner, spoon feeding them the information. It might be just on the first few days, you're just teaching them stuff. Here, taking them around the office. Oh, here's our vision. Here's all this kind of stuff. But then also there'll be the questions. There'll be the fact that, you didn't tell them how to submit their holiday, you didn't tell them how to submit expenses, you didn't tell them what their responsibilities are, or where to find the KPI metrics, or how to get access to this critical tool. And so all of those things just keep coming into you or their manager or their team members, drip feed for days, weeks, even months. Sometimes you'll even find a year later that they don't know key information that you would expect a new joiner to know within the first couple of weeks. So don't leave it to chance, but also know that if you don't do this, it takes more time. You will spend more time wasted spoon feeding this learner. And worst of all, if this new joiner, if they leave, you've got to do it all over again. Instead, what I recommend is creating onboarding that is primarily self-driven. That means the new joiner joins the organization and can primarily lead their own onboarding. Essentially, they're empowered to be able to learn all the things they need to do, and they can refer back to it over time if they forget and so on. That's not to say it's completely hands-off. You want to make them feel welcome and supported, so you want to make sure that they have lots of touch points with, whether it's the business leader, or the HR team, or the managers, or their buddies, or the rest of the team. And by the way, it should be all of the above. They should be having those touch points, but those people should be having valuable discussions to tackle biggest obstacles and questions, not spoon-feeding them information that could have been in a document. So I'll show you an example of what this might look like. So this is a template, so you can see get started in company name. We're saying welcome to the team, we're super happy to have you here, and we then have some kind of friendly image, which you might have a picture of your team or whatever it is. And then you're explaining what's in the onboarding checklist, so it's what it's going to help them to do, encourage them to reach out to their buddy, manager, team member, whatever. And then you've got sections of this, including meeting the team, setting up their tools, reviewing our goals, learning how we work together, learning about our products and services, and kicking off role onboarding, i.e. that role-specific piece. So by doing this, by providing this, you're allowing the new joiner to manage their own progress through this onboarding. For example, you might have set up your tools, email, they get to this stage and there might be some guidance in here that tells them, we use Outlook or Google Mail or whatever. You'll have received an email. You need to click that link, set up your logins, add it to LastPass or whatever. Like, you can give them those instructions so that you're not having to do that every single time someone joins the organization. Equally, when they get to review our goals, you could do a recap of the vision and long-term goals. It might be that you've already shared that in advance of them joining, but this gives an opportunity to perhaps reshare it and cement it. You can even ask questions like, what excites you most about our long-term strategy? Was there anything you found surprising or confusing? Do you have any thoughts or questions? So this gives an opportunity for perhaps the manager or the buddy to have a proper conversation about, in this case, vision and long-term goals, rather than just going, we've given them a document, we'll assume they'll read it. So you can see that by having this organized, it means you're not having to spoon feed. It means that you set this up essentially once and get the people to self-drive. You enable the interactions that you have with them to be more value-adding. But also you can go even further, because every time that you spot something that could be better, so for example, if you've got a new joiner who says, I was a bit confused by a particular step, or this link didn't work, you can immediately make the change, and that's it. It's done for them, but it's done for everyone. And in fact, even better than that, one of the things that we've done is to or the one thing that I've done is when I've had a new joiner and they ask me a question that I say, it's a really good point. I didn't put that in the onboarding. Here's the answer. Please, could you update the onboarding to include that? And then I don't have to do anything else. They've got all the information in the checklist, and any new joiners have got that too. So I highly recommend creating something like this, where you've got something that can be self-driven, that they can go through. Obviously, I recommend Air Manual for creating it, because it concertinas everything up. It's an interactive checklist that people can follow it as they go along. It makes it a lot easier to do, but frankly, even if you just created a document, that would be better than nothing. But that's really the key, is you want to make sure that it's as easy as possible to go through that process of learning what they need to know. Note that I would expect that you'd have your company onboarding one, and then you'd also probably have some role-specific onboarding. So here's a template for getting started as A, and then the role name. And so this would then focus on the specific tools, goals, essentials, etc. that relate to that role. So you'd have your all company onboarding, which covers everything that everyone in the organization needs to know, and then role specific to their role. Note that those checklists, those sort of onboarding checklists, are designed to be, as I say, like self-driven. They're for the new joiner, that A player. It's for them to be able to follow along and learn the things they need to do and refer back and so on. What you also want is some kind of checklist or some guide for your own team to prepare for and onboard that new joiner. You don't want to leave it to chance or wait until the first day that the person's in the office. Instead, you want to be weeks before they join, preparing, including making sure that the onboarding is ready for them, but also sorting out system access, payroll, setting up their key people like their buddies and managers, scheduling a welcome meeting, sending perhaps some intro information that might include your vision and values and ways of working, or the checklist or whatever, so that they can get started. You might send them a gift to make them feel welcome, and then you'll make sure that everything's ready, so that on day one you can have a great welcome meeting in which you can both welcome them, introduce yourself, get acquainted, but also check in on how they're doing, any questions they've got, and then make sure that all the basics are covered, HR, IT, and all that kind of stuff, before you kick off the self-service onboarding. So that's what really great onboarding looks like, and the experience that we've had in our team has been phenomenal. People almost to the point of overwhelmed with how awesome and detailed and so on it is, but and so often we have to encourage them, like, just slow down, take it at your own pace. Like, you can go back to it. The main aim is to help you understand what's going on in the business, not just to just to throw a load of stuff at you. So do ask questions and do go through it at your own pace. But the other thing is that we found that when you have this in place, you can continuously improve it. You can address any issues that come up. So when you get feedback about overwhelm or whatever, like, you can address it. So we've had loads of great results from it, but also we've been working with loads of other businesses, including a division of a FTSE 100 firm who just yesterday shared how they've had they shared an email from a new starter who the start of the email was, "This is phenomenal," and that was a new salesperson into their organization. Previously, their sales onboarding processes were described as Wild West. It was an absolute mess. And as a result, it would take ages for a new person in that team to get up to speed, which, if you're an A-player salesperson, you want to be selling quite quickly and it's starting to move towards your targets. So this new salesperson they've hired felt that the onboarding was phenomenal, but most important is that as a result they are making rapid progress on understanding all the things they need to understand. But also into that team they're adding another 2 starters only next week, I think. So as a result, they've had to do the development of the onboarding checklist and so on once, but they get that value every single time they get a new joiner into that organization. So that's what fantastic, amazing, outstanding onboarding looks like. That's what you really want for A players in your business, not an absolute mess. You want to make sure that they feel welcome, that they feel supported, that you teach them the most important things, you get them up to speed in their role, and you support their continued growth. And that is how you keep amazing A players in your business and get the most out of them. Hope you found that useful. Please do like this video if you've enjoyed the content and it's been useful to you. Share it with other business leaders that you think might value it, or if you're an employee in a business that has absolutely shocking onboarding, perhaps share it with the managers and leaders of that business. Or if you're an A player, perhaps joining a new organization, perhaps share the video, let them know the kind of level that you'd like to see, and or perhaps that you'll help them develop if it doesn't already exist. But I hope you find it useful. Do like it, do share it, and do post in the comments with any of the questions, comments that you've got on anything that you've seen. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching.